Hi, my name is Nnamdi Izuchi, and I have sickle cell.
Nnamdi, what would you say is the hardest thing about having sickle cell?
Just people knowing about it and understanding how it affects you. On the outside, you seem like just a regular person that goes through things that the average person goes through. But there's a lot that goes into having sickle cell, and not everyone knows it. Like, the sort of like fatigue that you feel, and how that may affect, you in school, or if you want to play a sport, that type of thing. Just having people understand that, and understand that you may not be able to do some of the things that other people can do.
Does having sickle cell, does it feel like it can be lonely at times?
Yeah, sometimes knowing that, among like your group of friends, or in your high school, you may be the only person that has sickle cell, or if someone else has sickle cell, you probably don't even know it. But if you grow up, especially if you grew up in Boston, there's a good sized community for it. I definitely get the resources I need from my hospital. I go to BMC. They have resources for kids with sickle cell, and they hosted events, and through those events, you got to know other kids with sickle cell, and
that's great, dude. I grew up in BMC, and when I was sick, I used to be sick all the time. And they pretty much like saved my life. They're a really good hospital. I definitely recommend anyone who's from Boston to check out that hospital. But you were talking about there's some resources from BMC. What are like those resources? Like, can you elaborate on that?
Even just having a hematologist is a blessing. Shout out to Dr. Sabota. That's my pediatric.
I know her. She's great. Yeah, I know her. Yeah, I know her. She's great, bro. Yeah,
shout out to
Sabota. Yeah,
shout out to her. But
small world. Yeah.
Even just having a hematologist is a great start. Having
for those who may not know, what is a hematologist?
Well, take the first part of the word hema. That means blood. So they're basically someone who deals with different types of like blood related diseases and illnesses. They're most commonly used for things like sickle cell, other major blood related illnesses that you can think of. So she monitors the hemoglobin in my blood, the different metrics. You go and get your blood tested, and the lab will do their magic, and she'll tell you what is good and what's not good. Through that, they can tell if you're not keeping up with your medication, stuff like that. So yeah, like I said, even having a hematologist is great. But just the other resources, like being connected with this, what is it called? The Greater Boston Sickle Cell
Disease Association.
Exactly. Being connected with them, and their events. I think I even went to this event at the observatory where I met some of the Boston Celtics, and this was like,
that's great.
Yeah, this was back in the day.
Dude, that's awesome.
This is back in the day when we had Pierce, Garnett, Ray Allen, Rondo.
Wow.
So I met them like way
cool.
back in the day when I was young. So
wow, man.
So stuff
that's
like that.
Great, bro.
Yeah.
So through being associated with Boston Medical Center and the Greater Boston Sickle Cell Disease Association, you were able to take some advantages of some resources. Now, what does sickle cell pain feel like to you?
It can be a range of things, honestly. It could be a headache, or it can be a stomach ache, or it can be a back ache, or it can be a combination of all of those things. And depending on the severity of the pain crisis, it can really get bad. So if you have a friend that has sickle cell, or they tell you that they have sickle cell, just know that sometimes they can be
and where would you say the pain is the worst for you at times?
It's the worst. When I have the worst of my pain crises, or crises, it's usually in my stomach.
Oh,
And yeah, it can get really bad, and you're just hunched over,
okay.
in pain and
That's
whatnot.
interesting. For me, it's the back. For me, when if I do have it, for me, it's the back. But everybody's pain is different. So it's always interesting to hear that. How do you cope with that pain? What are some things you do to cope with the pain and help yourself feel better?
Well, if I'm in a crisis, I know that means I'm pretty dehydrated. So
Okay.
you gotta have lots of water just on standby. You gotta be drinking a lot of water. I'd say sometimes I listen to music. Literally. Sometimes I will just put on some headphones, wait till my medication or pain medication to really kick in and do its thing. And while I'm in a bad pain crisis, I'll throw on some music.
Yeah, dude, that's
help.
great, man. So one thing I like, I'm glad I'm speaking to you, is because I know you love music, and a lot of people don't know this, but there's actually studies that show that listening to music helps decrease pain. And just like you listen to music, I also listen to a lot of music to help decrease pain. So what about music you say helps you with the pain? How does that help you cope with sickle cell?
It's really just a mental thing. Sometimes when you're listening to music, especially if you're listening to it at a high volume like I do, it can really help to take your mind off of the pain. When you're listening to music, that's kind of where your senses are focused on it, not sort of like on like the pain. So
music is like you said, music is effective because it pretty much distracts the brain from your pain. So I'm glad you mentioned music, because I think a lot of people don't really realize how music helps. Like he's a music fan. He got all types of music posters, and it's pretty, man. But it's good to see. So what are some other things you would say you do to cope with sickle cell outside of that? You said dehydration, drink water, music, anything else?
Really kind of the main things, but I try to just stay active. Because if you're sometimes when I'm just laying down in a pain crisis, that doesn't really help, but then again, sometimes you have to lay down. I'm trying to sleep. Is good.
It's one of the issues is dealing with mental health. And mental health is an alarming issue that's kind of been trending. But with people with sickle cell, you're 4 times more likely to be depressed if you have sickle cell. So I know a lot of people who watch my channel are curious about mental health. So how do you take care of yourself? What do you do to keep yourself healthy mentally? I'm sure music helps.
Yeah, music again is a real help. I don't know, you kind of just got to remind yourself that it's not really the end of your world. You gotta remember that sickle cell isn't really the end of your world. When I was growing up, I would just think about it all the time. How I wasn't able to, do all the sports that I wanted to do, or how I was always, tired after school, so I would really never get into any extracurricular activities and stuff like that. But you got to remind yourself that as long as you're taking your medicine, if you're actively trying to keep yourself healthy, then sickle cell can't, it can't defeat you. It really can't defeat you.
So you don't let sickle cell define you. That's great, man. That's great to hear. Tell the world about yourself. What do you do? I know you said you went to college. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah. So I started at UMass Dartmouth, and I was doing pre-med, and then after a year I realized that it wasn't really for me, so I took some time off and went to this program called Year Up. It's over in downtown. It's kind of like a professional training program, and I was trained for QA, which is basically software testing. Did that for a year, got a job through them, and I started working in the IT field. And Year Up also gives you 31 college credits, which is basically like a year's worth of college credits during your time there when you're learning. I used those credits to transfer to Northeastern, and now I'm there studying IT.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for dealing with sickle cell while being in college? Are there any resources or any things that you can think of, or any things that you may do in particular?
Keeping up with your medication is key.
Mm-hmm.
It's key.
And what medications do you take?
A very common and popular one is hydroxyurea.
Mm-hmm.
I take 3 tablets a day, and yeah, that's what I was taking throughout high school, throughout college.
Okay.
Just making sure you're keeping up with your medication,
Right.
staying hydrated. That's the minimum.
Great.
That's the minimum
Great.
of what you have to do.
We went to the same college. You went to
Yeah.
Northeastern University. I went to Northeastern University, and something that helped me actually was something called the Disability Resource Center. Some people may not be familiar with it, but some colleges have a Disability Resource Center where they provide you resources for you. If you're in college and you have sickle cell, definitely go check out your Disability Resource Center. They can give you some helpful tips. What inspiring advice would you have for sickle cell warriors? Like, if you had to leave them with one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would just be a little bit of what we were talking about before, about the mental health aspect. You can't let it define you. It's definitely an important part of your life,
Mm-hmm.
but, you can't let it define you. You have to let the people that's closest to you in your life know about it and make sure that they're aware about it, because it can literally save your life in some situations. But just for the mental aspect, if you don't have people in your life that aren't accepting and people who don't keep it in the back of their minds, it could make it more so that it's not that important to you when it's not important to the people around you, because they're supposed to be your support system. Whoever that may be is supposed to be your support system, and making sure that they know and understand your condition, it can definitely help in a range of situations. So
having a support system is definitely essential. When I was sick often when I was younger, I don't know where I would be without my mom. Like, she was like my greatest form of support. So definitely good to have a support system. Well, anyways, Nnamdi, we appreciate you for the great content, and would you have any last words for the channel or anything?
I don't know. Stay easy and listen to more music. It'll help.
Cool. All right, boss. Thank you, man.